Welcome, everybody. I'm Steve Lentini, and I'm the host for the podcast Different Thinking for Different Times. On this podcast, we cover a wide range of topics, and I want to challenge people's thinking because humanity, we have a tendency to think we know it all. We have an egoic mind that thinks that we think like God, and we are so far off. At least in my experience, I've shared that here on the podcast many times because I flatlined on November 18th, 2000. And I can tell you, it's way beyond human comprehension and human understanding, which upsets a lot of people. I'm only sharing my experience. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. Okay, so upcoming on the podcast, I have Paul Salter from Unstuck Yourself upcoming. I have Bishop Foreman, who's got an interesting message, again, along the lines of stretching our thinking and the way we do things. And then Gil Gillenwater is upcoming, and he wrote the book Hope on the Border. They sent me one. I'm, of course, done a lot of study about him and about all my guests. So upcoming, we'll have a lot of guests, and people are reaching out to me more and more to be a guest on the podcast. So I do this. It's a labor of love. I have no revenue from the podcast, and this is my 7th season, 7 years of doing this to help people with my passion, or to have you consider it. We need to stretch our thinking, and we can see it everywhere in religion. In fact, when I talk about religion, I mentioned that the major religions are all rooted. I had a little bit of a tooth work today, dental work. All the major religions are rooted in Abraham. They come from the same tree, and then they for eons, they've been killing themselves, and it's craziness. And each one thinks they have the perfect religion, right? A God that created, or the life force that created an infinite universe. And by the way, one second I was in intensive care. The next second, I was one with everything and nothing, pure consciousness. And I can tell you, it's way beyond at least my own understanding and my own comprehension. And even my categories you can hear on the scratching post. Maybe you can, I don't know. We'll find out. So different thinking is to stretch beyond this idea that you think you're right. It's not just based in religion, politics, right? We see all kinds of examples, elitist ideas of both sides, right? In our country, the two sides, all thinking they're right, and even going to extremes to demonstrate it, just small-minded. And we have to overcome it. Or not. I mean, we can continue with this. The chaos and conflict helps us understand we're alive. My idea is that we need to appreciate each other and be thankful for all the differences, because if we were all the same, then we wouldn't know we were alive. It wouldn't be the same kind of existence. It's just that we can do better, but that's up to each of us to do individually. It's not to try to influence the group with groupthink, like Jim Jones or the guy in the sneaker cult or many others, because our politics are very similar to cult. Our religions are very similar to cults, depending on the leader. I won't ask you to drink the Kool-Aid today. Don't get scared. So what I want to talk about today is, again, continuing and adding to the ideas and all the different ways that we can stretch our thinking and how it actually helps people succeed in their life, have a whole different life. The first thing is you're accountable for wherever you are in your life, right? I wrote the book No BS Coaching and many other books on the same topic, similar topic. And then I wrote How to Train Your Mind. And so here's How to Train Your Mind, written by a dragon. That followed the first book in this series was No BS Coaching. Wake up from the BS. You tell yourself. Now, BS can stand for what you think it stands for. It can also stand for belief systems. And that's where so many people get stuck. And then what happens is they only surround themselves with people that think the same because they're so uncomfortable. They don't want to be challenged. They don't want to be stretched. The next book I wrote was Your Brain is Brilliant, but It's Not Always Your Friend. And that's the key that we're going to talk about today is you can reprogram your mind. But most people believe they're thinking. See, that's the dis-ease that I'm hoping to help people develop. And I'm not the only one doing this kind of work. Joseph Nguyen Nguyen wrote, "Don't believe your brain," right? Don't believe your brain. Shirzad Chamine wrote Positive Intelligence, where he developed a program with Stanford called the PQ coaching. I did become certified in the PQ coaching, but I'm not selling anything on these programs. By the way, if you want to reach out and email me, that's steve@stevelentini.com. I'm glad to send you the PQ assessments, and you can Google it, PQ free assessment. And you can learn about your own default patterns. And the fascinating thing about all of our default patterns is we can observe them when we're looking for triggers. What triggers us? Who triggers us? Because really what they're doing is mirroring what you need to work on. I love what Wayne Dyer said years ago, is that when you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. When we get squeezed, we get what we need to work on. Man, is there a lot of evidence of that today? I mean, there's people that move out of the country because one president gets elected or another. Talk about a trigger. And then if you want to take recent events, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, by the way, if you want to Google them, there's many YouTubes about them talking about not allowing illegal immigration and about them enforcing border security. And by the way, Clinton and Obama together deported over 9 million people. And yet somehow we had a government that was telling us, I think his name was Mayorkas, telling us the border is not open. How did 11 million people come in without going through the legal process? That's part of small-minded thinking. Telling us one thing and expecting that we don't believe our eyes. It's bullshit or BS. It's a belief system. I'm not just going to spend time talking about politics today. What I want to talk about is some of the ways that you can identify your small-minded thinking and then grow beyond it. One, be accountable. Whatever you've created in your life is a result of your thinking. And what happens is when people are stuck in all these complaints, even to the degree of protesting, and years ago when the Vietnam War was raging, I was also joined in with people that protested peacefully. I can tell you that when we get stuck in a loop in our mind of complaints and grievances, you're actually delaying your own good. R.J. Spina talks about it in his work on consciousness. He's written a number of books on the idea. One was Super Consciousness. And what he talks about is that when we get into complaints and grievances and we let it be a loop in our brain and we don't do anything productive about it, it delays our own good. It's called lower frequency energy. And when you're stuck in lower frequency energy, that's gossip, complaining, but not to the people that can do something about it, right? That means it's gossip. And you're walking around with a story about your mates, your boss, your job, the politics. I mean, listen, in politics, cast your vote and forget about it. Forget about it because you can't change it. Although people have tried and wasted millions of dollars and the whole country's time, which turned out to be lies, trying to change a president. Here's the thing. Let's bring it down to your own life. When you're complaining about a boss, your spouse, a neighbor, a friend, a child, you're delaying your own good. And when you notice one of those loops, there's two things you can do about it. One, if you can't control the situation, let it go. But you got to tell your mind, hey, I can't control this. I call my brain the little fucker. I say, little fucker, we can't control this. I'm letting it go. I run my mind. Not 100%, by the way. I haven't found the way. I tell my clients, if I ever tell you I've found the way, run away. So one, you let it go if you notice a loop, or you bring it to the people or persons that can do something about it. You bring it bravely instead of talking behind people's back, which is gossip, or running around with the complaint in your mind, or telling your buddies at the Friday night watering hole, or in the lunchroom at work. You've got to speak up. That's higher frequency energy because you're doing something with it. And when you bring a complaint to someone that can do something about it, where you declare what you tangibly know to be true, that's higher frequency energy. And neuroscientists are doing work that shows when we spend more time in higher frequency energy, there's a higher return in our life, in happiness and joy. And maybe it impacts our career as well. But This isn't about money. This is about changing yourself and learning that when you change, things change. You have power. The reason most people complain or have a victim story about what happened to them by a boss or a spouse or an ex-wife or the party that got in that wasn't theirs, they delay their own good because it's lower frequency energy. When you take it to someone that can do something about it or let it go, you are now moving into higher frequency energy and start to notice. So that's the second thing. Take accountability for where your life is and what you've created. Secondly, take a complaint to the people or persons that can do something about it. Third, notice whether you're more often in higher frequency energy or lower frequency energy. Even Albie agrees. Lay down, my good boy. Lay down. Lay down. So you can choose to spend more time when you notice in higher frequency energy and have a higher return. People that are stuck in complaints and woe is me, they wonder why. And there's whole swaths of the population that are stuck in woe is me stories, some from centuries ago, some from last week. And it's not subject to any race or demographic or political persuasion. All humans love complaining. The mind loves to complain, and it wants you to be a victim, but you are going to run your mind or not, or let it run you, which has been around, by the way, for thousands of years. And when I wrote the book Sage Advice, I think I have a copy of it here. When I wrote the book Sage Advice, there's different sages. I have it marked because I refer to the quotes and I use it in a lot of my work. Sage advice, wisdom for living from throughout the ages. There's people from thousands of years ago that talked about managing your mind, not to believe you're thinking. But somehow we don't teach that in our schools, although it's starting. I had Raphael McMaster on, who actually is running a program. I bought his book because I want to be able to show people is fundamental life tools. And he's actually introducing programs in schools. And it's fascinating because he actually used an idea that models my acorn brain. He talks about what you're planting and what sprouts from your thinking and to challenge your thinking. Like this acorn can be an oak tree. We know that. You can become a giant oak in your life if you want, if it's something you want to do. That's up to you, but you have to manage your mind. Now, there's many quotes, but there's a few that I like to mention in here that are more recent. Rainer Maria Rilke called his voice the little hooligan, and he would ask his clients or students, will you let the little hooligan run you or will you run it? George Ivanovich Gurdjieff talked about calling the mind the machine, and he would ask the same question. Will you let the machine run you or will you run it? So the thing to do to begin is just notice, and the goal is to become the observer, the witness to your thinking, where you observe certain thoughts passing by like clouds. Some clouds are darker, right? Some clouds are light and fluffy. Same with our thoughts. Some thoughts are darker. And if you let those thoughts take you into depression, anxiety, fear, sadness, then what's happened is your brain is running you. And here's why. I want to tell you why. Neuroscientists and researchers have also done studies on mostly negative thinkers and found that their brains remind them of all the negative events because the brain has an advantage over you. It remembers every place you've fallen, every emotional reaction you've had to certain people and places and things. So every time that you've gotten sad in the past when certain events happened, the brain remembered them. When you've gotten angry at certain people, when you've gone into making thoughts that were self-limiting, where your brain was suggesting you're a failure. Everything you touch turns to crap, that you're less than others. Now, I have a clue. You're not more than anyone. You're not superior to anyone nor beneath anyone. We're just bozos on the bus. But understanding your brain, if you allow it, will take you down the primrose path of all the negative events, and it'll convince you it's the primrose path. It's not. The primrose path is you running your mind, reprogramming your mind. Joe Dispenza calls it reminding yourself. There's a lot of research on this. Dr. Srikumar Rao probably was one of the first that started around the time that I started doing this work. Dr. Roland Alexander wrote Wise Mind, Open Mind. Dr. James Doty wrote Mind Magic. Marshall Goldsmith wrote Triggers. Red Hawk wrote the book Self-Observation, where he talked about his journey of noticing what triggered him and the work that he did to reprogram his mind and how that changed his life. So you have power. The reason that most people prefer the victim story, the woe is me, most of society, probably 90, I don't know, I think I'm actually giving credit to humanity at 90. It might be higher. It might be. I don't know. I'd like to do that study. Take in 5,000 people and find out how many of them believe they're thinking or never had the thought that they could change their mind, that they can run their mind. So the thing is we're surrounded by it, right? No, it's not in schools. Our politicians, especially the last 15, 20 years, all they do is this. We're right. No, we're right. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. And what happens is, and some of them have some of the most bizarre things that they say to make the other side wrong. I won't go into those, but you know what I'm talking about. And what happens is they expect the population to behave differently. The leaders are small-minded, limited thinking, and pointing the finger and calling each other names, and some the most horrific. Then they expect the general population to behave differently. We have leaders that are really out of touch. And the thing is, we elect them. And we've done it for thousands of years because Cicero said this. It's in my book, Sage Advice. Politicians aren't born, they're excreted. So if you got to look that up, look that up. That's still today. Most of our politicians are not good leaders of society. Many go into office with very little in terms of assets and come out millionaires. What's going on with that? That means they don't have integrity. And that's our responsibility as voters to elect people that have integrity and willing to have a dialogue. I like John Fetterman, who's a Democrat from Pennsylvania, and I'm an independent, by the way. I've been a Democrat and I've been a Republican. And now I'm an independent because I didn't enjoy either. But John Fetterman has been willing to break from his party line, which is fascinating. It's called the party line, and for both parties, by the way, because they remind me of the Communist Party in China, the CCP. There's one party, and you better toe the line. And that seems like what both parties do, because they get in a hovel and say, hey, we're going to primary you, or we're going to do things to you, or we won't give you this or give you that if you don't toe the line. And John Fetterman is a brave politician because he speaks his mind. Stop listening to the BS. Never follow anything or anyone blindly. And there's many examples of that throughout human history. We know it doesn't work out well. You be your own compass and you change you. My life's none of your business. And your life is none of my business. What I'm urging people to do is work on themselves. Understand that you are creating your life. And if you've got nothing but complaints and tales of woe and a victim and all the tales of what people did to you, you are holding yourself stuck in that rut. And the reason most people still like the tale of woe, the victim story, even government likes it, by the way. A lot of political parties like to say, we're going to save you. We're going to save whole groups of people. People are afraid of their power to create. They don't want to learn that they have power, that they're not powerless. But that takes work because it begins with first accepting responsibility for the mess you've created. See, that's the good news. If you have the power to create a mess and you think you're stuck, what you feed grows. Whatever you feed grows. Whatever thought pattern you feed grows. That's how everything grows, by the way, in a universe. What gets fed grows. If you feed the tale of woe, you'll be stuck in it. But it's because you're afraid of your power to create. And the good news in creating a mess, you have that same power, can create an amazing miracle, an amazing life. And what you want to work on is overcoming this little small-minded brain. You can call it anything you like. Dr. Daniel Amen calls his brain, he recommends naming it as I do. He names his brain Little Hermie after a rambunctious pet raccoon he had when he was a teenager. Caused a lot of trouble apparently in the house, or for Dr. Daniel Amen, but he named his brain Little Hermie, and he suggests talking to your brain in the third party, either by the name you give it or call it your name. But talk to the brain, not at the shopping mall or sitting by yourself in the restaurant. Address your mind. It can just be a thought. Hey, brain, that's a thought. It's not a fact. Or just telling your brain, I'm in charge here. That's not a fact. That's only a thought, and it's not true. Here's what's true. Have the thoughts. You don't have to say it out loud, but when you're alone, you're in your office, you're in the car, you can do that. Dr. Amen is a double board certified psychiatrist and a neuro researcher, and he recommends it. I don't have those certifications. I'm a regular guy who flatlined, and one of the things I noticed, first of all, I'm grateful to be back. I got a second chance. That's a whole story. I'm not going to go into it today. Amazing. Beyond my understanding. But that voice didn't go with me. That voice isn't in what's next, what I now call home or pure consciousness. And every day, when I close my eyes at night, I say, thy will be done. Thy will be done. Look at, even Albie agrees. He knows. I say, thy will be done. Doesn't matter if I wake up here or there. But if I wake up here, I know I got work to do, and that's what I'm doing. I'm continuing my work. So Albie wants you to get the point. You can hear him barking. I'm going to leave you with that thought. Challenge your own thinking. Journal. Here's a 5-minute journal. This is an exercise you can do every day. It's great. I have another journal for ideas that I keep next to me. And if you want to email me or come on the show and be a guest, just Steve at Steve Lentini. See it? Steve at SteveLentini.com. If you're interested in any of the books I've written, you want to get one, that's fine. SteveLentiniAuthor.com. If you'd like me to speak about any of these topics, especially a complaint with a request, or about programming the mind, about expanding from small-minded, limited thinking into matching limitless thinking, which is what we live in, by the way. We live in a limitless universe. And we call it a limitless universe, or a universe, to give it definition. It's way beyond anything we can comprehend. So email me, Steve at SteveLentini.com. And remember, as a guest, I might just ask you, does that sound like small-minded thinking? I hope you take yourself on and prove that there's a lot more waiting for you in life when you expand your thinking. Go beyond this little acorn. Remember, that acorn, to become an oak tree, has to get smashed open, stomped into the ground. For a period of time, it's in the dark soil, and then it goes through a process of growth. That's what we have to do with our egos. Or not. Like I said, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. If you're in the woe story, the victim story, that's okay too. You can stay in it. See how's that working out for you is what, that's what I suggest. You want to change that? You can. You want some help? I'm glad to give free coaching. There's offers in all of my books. If you email me, I'll also give you a free coaching. All right. This is my life's work, my passion, especially 23 in a few months. November 18th, it was 23 years when I got a glimpse of what awaits us and what we're part of. It's amazing. And if we all experienced it and came back, by the way, we wouldn't be so petty or worried or anxious or nervous or worrying about sin. By the way, I'll give you that little clue. It's the good we do that matters in this life. So let's do good and let's work on our thinking individually, right? Your job is you. My job is me. Enjoy. Thank you.